Truck drivers rejoice. Joel Wagner from Daimler Trucks Perth has all you need to make your job look easier than Tony Modra sitting on blokes' heads taking a Freo specky. Joel is in charge of the Fuso truck range and is ready to make your dreams come true on the road. Inquire about the 515 Canter City cabs, which have been very popular as a ute alternative. The 515 has more tray space and payload than a ute, is drivable on a car licence, and has car-like safety features. To top it off, there is a whopping 5-year, 200,000 kilometre warranty, which makes this beast more reliable than paid West Coast Eagles inside 50 free kicks during a Western Derby. So if you're looking to smarten up your transportation from car licensed light trucks to prime movers, contact Joel at jwagner@daimlertrucksperth.com.au or ask for Joel on 9311 7400. Don't forget to mention the Purple Rain to receive the Purple Love treatment.
Hello and welcome to episode 5, season 5 of the Purple Rain with Duck and Oz.
Yeah.
Well, it was a bit of a delayed pod, guys. As I've talked about before, my lovely girlfriend Victoria and I celebrated our 4-year anniversary.
Congratulations, mate.
Down at Bredon Commons. So yeah, it was good, mate. Had a bit of a feed and had a couple of glasses of wine and enjoyed the night. And,
Mate, I was excited. I was expecting a text.
Oh, you expecting a drop of the name, mate?
Yeah.
Well, she's still young, so mate, we'll work through it, mate.
Yep.
We're seeing how it's going.
We're progressing.
Yeah, progress 1 week at a time. Taking it 1 week at a time, mate. Speaking of 1 week at a time, Oz, talk about a game that this is how I watched this game. I watched the first quarter, all right, and then I went out for dinner. So I already had dinner plans on Sunday night, and the game gets shifted to Sunday night. And I looked at it and I was like, because it said 6:10, and I was like, what, they've moved it 10 minutes. But no, they'd moved it 2 hours. For what reasons? Well, there was a COVID test positive by Essendon, but they decided to move. I think, did they move the Gold Coast game up a bit? I assume they did.
Yeah, and
they
then
moved the Gold Coast game up and then the Dockers game up.
In order to fit it into some primetime slot.
Yeah.
That's the excuse.
To get it in the prime time. But look, so I watched the first quarter. I'm pumped. I don't take my phone out to dinner with me because I'm going out with a lot of non-football people, and they were pretty impressed that I was there, which I was pretty happy with. My girlfriend's sister's boyfriend, who is a big footy guy,
Yes.
right at the end of the night goes, oh, how about the Dockers losing?
Oh, no, he didn't.
And I was like, mate, I have not been on my phone. I don't have my phone with me. I was going to watch it on delay. But, you know, to his credit, there was no delay on it. Like, I don't understand. AFL.com, 2 hours after the game's finished, still doesn't have up the replay. Aren't they just, like, flicking it up? Doesn't it take, like, a minute?
Is there a clause in their contract with...
Yeah, probably. But, like, it's all KO now, so it's all linked in together. So I don't know why they couldn't just, like, flip it up, get it done. So I watched quarter 2, 3, and 4 about an hour ago.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you this question without notice, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Before you get into the GBU.
Yep.
This is proof of how Dockery, the season is, but also how Dockery our situation is. If we actually play the game 2 hours before, we don't actually have that torrential downpour.
That's in my Dockery, mate.
Okay.
And we can talk about it, but like it's the truth, isn't it? Okay, now we know that, you know, if it could go wrong, it will go wrong for the Dockers.
That is correct.
So the game gets shifted 2 hours forward. In the second quarter, it absolutely buckets down torrential. Our skills...
Shout out, Jody.
Obviously, our skills get worse. Port Adelaide skills get worse, but it just killed us, man. And we'll talk about it before the GBU, but I think really, guys, if you break down the game, and I was having a good look at it today, in the second quarter, we only really lost the game in the second quarter. That was it.
That is correct.
First quarter, we're actually better. I thought we were better than Port Adelaide, and the third and fourth quarter, I actually thought we played really well, and I thought we outplayed Port Adelaide for long periods of time without the results on the scoreboard. And it could have been a lot closer than what it was in the end. But in the second quarter, this was the problem, and it's a threefold problem. One, it was wet, so we couldn't overpossess it. Even though we were overpossessing it a bit, we couldn't overpossess it and we couldn't switch it. So we got no movement laterally, so we can't open up the ground that way. Two, we're losing the contested ball and we're losing every clearance seems to be just overpossession again in the clearances, but no just like quick kicks out. We got on top of that. But three, and it comes down to this, is that Taberner and Hogan gave us absolutely nothing in the second quarter. Hogan, I didn't know where he was. I think he was just still playing deep, which like isn't his fault. But get up there and get involved. Or, J-Lo, send out that message. Tabs, two-touch player, and that's why he's not that good. And as soon as it got wet, he kicked 2 goals in the first quarter, and we were like, he's on here.
Yep.
And, he's one of the very few players who looks like he's kicking off his opposite foot is his stronger foot, his right foot, which is just crazy. He's got the Ben Simmons theory of the wrong hand. But, they give us nothing. Lob gives us nothing in the ruck and around the ball. We're absolutely getting killed. Fife does stupid things. There's a couple of soft free kicks here and there. Like Conker's holding the ball was very borderline. I think Lob gave away a free kick in the ruck contest. That's borderline. Conker goes up and that's a cat 10, that spoil miss. I mean, that's just terrible. And just little things like that. Like, what is bloody Fife gets it out of the pack? He's running towards our goals and just hand passes to Schultz. Like, why? And like, of all the players, why Schultz? Like, why Schultz with someone on his hammer? Fife's, no one's going to tackle you. And the best thing I ever got told in the wet, if you possess the ball, move laterally and no one can tackle you because it's really hard to change directions if you don't know which way you're going. So you can't if you plant your foot, boom, go the other way because you're going to do that. Okay, you can do it, but a defender's like, well, as soon as you're on foot them, they're like, whoa, on their backside. Shout out to Miss Gillies, who told me that in year 11 footy. But, it was just, and in the end, it's Charlie Dixon, it's Westhoff, and it's Marshall being able to take marks in the rain, and in particular, Charlie Dixon absolutely murdering us in that second quarter. And, Boken, Wines winning it around the contest and being a bit smarter around the contest. And again, Oz, it comes down to that footy IQ. It's raining, okay? Forwards, you've got to be in front. Little fellas, you can slip on behind because the ball's likely to go through the fingers. One in front, one behind. We got Schultz, we got Collier, we got Matera. They were nowhere to be seen. And I think this is the fundamental thing that J-Lo spoke about. We have all these players that go disappearing for quarters at a time. Doctor Who, the reason we call him Doctor Who is because half the games I watch, I'm like, oh, Darcy Tucker's playing. Like, he'll play well for 1 quarter and then he'll disappear. Brayshaw disappeared for long periods of time. Chera disappeared for long periods of time. Collier, Matera, Schultz, Bewley, all these guys just completely go out of the game for long periods of time, and you're just like, where are they? Even Hogan and Taberner. They just go missing. And I understand maybe they're in the forward line, but they just needed to be a little bit smarter, use their brains, don't overpossess it. And one of the main culprits, the 2 main culprits are actually Fife and Walters in the second quarter. Walters murdered us with his decision making in the second quarter. He overhand passed. He got cleaned up. He tried to be too fancy. And in the wet, a lot of the time, it's possess the ball, grab it, straight lines, bit of lateral movement, kick it long, get it long.
Which is ironic, Duck, because I honestly thought that the wet, when it came out, I thought, this is going to suit us because it's...
Yeah, get into the gutter.
Get into the gutter, Dockery time. We just, keep pushing the ball forward. That's all we got to do. But then we just didn't make the adjustment. And for that, what I take out of that when I say the adjustment is overpossessing the ball, trying to flip handballs when we couldn't actually control the ball. The Fife one that you mentioned, which was so critical because not only was it a fumble, it turns into a goal. Not being able to kick, when we have a limited opportunity, miss the goal, but then it flips the other way and then they score, which is like a 14-point swing. A 12-point swing. Stuff like that.
Yep.
Which is a bit of a killer. And I guess from my perspective is surely knowing that we're going into a game 2 hours later, having a look at the Bureau of Meteorology there, shout out Bomb, how you going? Then seeing that the rain's coming in, make the emergency changes. Like, you've got a guy by the name of Sarong who's supposed to be this contested ball beast. He's supposed to be clean with hand. Like, why isn't he playing?
Yeah.
You know, we had this conversation before, Duck. I'm like, why did we not choose to bring in when clearly the conditions are going to suit those people at ground? Like, why didn't we do that?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, and in the end, it was just a 1 quarter thing. But it's just the smarts
that's
of the players, mate. It's the smarts. It's not necessarily the players who are there. It's the guys on the ground using some leadership and doing the right thing. But again, like I said, it was a combination of 3 things. We couldn't switch it, so we couldn't move the ball laterally because of the over-possession, and we did it once, and it just didn't quite work out. We couldn't kick it down the line because Tabs and Hogan aren't doing a get or lobber or giving us nothing down the line. And we couldn't win the clearances. So the idea of the old Dockers style, kick it to the boundary line, hit it over, and Sandy's going to win the tap, and Fife or Mundy will win the clearance. Now, the thing that was actually a little bit disappointing was Mundy in the third quarter I thought was really great. But the movement to get him into the game. Hey, Mundy's an experienced head. He'll win some contested ball. Yeah, he gave up a goal with Boak's clearance, but it was a little bit of a shepherd out. But Mundy's going to get you on top in that clearance, and he's going to have that leadership of, all right, boys, got to be in front. We're just going to win this clearance and kick it forward. That's what we got to do. Just move it forward, all costs. Let's get it forward. You know, I just thought there was little things like that could have been done earlier. Get Hogan up the ground a bit more. You know, have the little fellas, have just like everyone out of the 50 and charging back into it, you know, with the Mosquito guys. But Oz, here's a little fact for you, mate. Before we get into, I know this has been a long time before the GBU. And people are salivating, you know, on bated breath waiting for the GBU. But first game we play, in the first quarter we lose by 19 points. And in the next 3 quarters we win by 13 points. So we go down by 6. Brizzy, first quarter, 18 points. We lose by that quarter. Quarter 3, we lose by 18 points. First, second, and fourth quarter, we actually win by 6 points. Port Adelaide, we lose the second quarter by 34 points, and we win the first, third, and fourth quarter by 5 points. So we're winning a majority of the quarters, it seems to be, or in the game for a majority of the quarters, and it's just that 1 quarter. First quarter versus Essendon, the third quarter versus Brizzy, and the second quarter versus Port Adelaide. So it's probably a sign of a developing side that we're going missing for periods, but it's also something that we need to stop, and it needs to be, okay, what do we do when a team gets a run on? What do we do if we can't get it inside 50? You know, what's the plan there? What's the idea? But also, that second quarter was super unique. That was torrential.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah.
And I get that. But there's also, you know, there's a time where you got to dig in and just try and make it a 50-50.
Yeah.
And for Port to kick on the way that they kicked on, yeah, well, I mean, we'll learn from them.
Essentially, they knew better. As well. They were like, nah, they're probably not going to win this game.
Yep. Like and so that's the other thing.
Even though we did play better in quarter 3 and quarter 4, Port seemed to be like,
yeah, they pulled back.
We've won this, and that's the game's pretty much over. And when we want to go, we can go. But at the moment, we just got to just keep them at bay, you know? Anyway, Oz, GBU. AKA the GBD. Look, the Freo Dockers 6-5-41, lost by 29 points to Port Adelaide 10-10-70. Look, just some goods. I thought the first quarter played well. Tab started well with 2 goals. The third and fourth quarter, like I said before, actually not that bad and just couldn't score. Fife was great, but we need 2 of him, 1 in the forward line and 1 in the midfield. Mundy, I thought his third quarter was very solid and helped us get back into the game. Look, Young continues to go, and I love his pizzazz and his gumption. I think that's the right word. And that attacking kick back into the 50 where he didn't quite pull it off, but just the confidence to have that kick.
Yep.
And I mean, you can see that kind of stuff hasn't been trained out of him already from RTB in previous years. Look, Sonny was sloppy in the wet, but good after that. Chera across half back seemed to be a little bit more comfortable and played a little bit of a better game in the first half, but then goes missing in the second half. Direct footy after halftime worked pretty well, just getting it on the boot, getting the contest, you know, quick kicks, you know, the couple of little handballs mucking around, Mickey Mouse handballs, you know, and it seemed to work out a fair bit. But again, our skills aren't just quite up to it yet, Oz. Any other good that I missed? Any players or individuals or
I just thought
players and individuals is the same thing?
I just liked the way that the structure worked in the first quarter when it was dry, clearly, and I thought the forward line was working in sync. the ball was definitely being brought to ground if we weren't marking it, which allowed players to, even your Matera types, you know what I mean? Like just the opportunity there. And I thought, when Trav, that was his 150th?
Yeah,
100th.
100th.
So it's his 100th game. And I thought, here we go, we're on here.
Yeah.
And then
kicked a great goal.
Yeah, kicked a great goal. And then obviously you go to the next part. But that to me was enough that, when we want to, we can play that type of football. But it's just frustrating when we can't.
Yeah, it is. And, look, Tabs, again, played well. Hogan slowly worked himself into the game, but, it's just a number of little things, isn't it? Look, in the wet, overpossessed in terms of the bad. In the second quarter, our first inside 50 was after 58, with 58 seconds to go in the quarter. Clearance is poor in the second quarter, and we couldn't switch, like I said. The forwards were giving us nothing. I thought Dixon played a great game. I know that's not bad, but look, for us it was. Dixon absolutely killed us, and he was the difference in the game, in my opinion.
And when's the last time he took that many marks in a game?
Well, mate, they were talking about like all Australian. I was like, I don't know, why were we never in the Charlie Dixon stakes? Like, it's another weird one. He's from the Gold Coast, and he wanted to leave the Gold Coast, and he wanted to go to Port Adelaide. Like, what's his link to Port Adelaide? I don't understand that. He's a Queensland guy, so. Why are we not in the Charlie Dixon, sweepstakes?
Well, in any sort of big name sweepstakes.
Yeah, but like Port Adelaide's no different. Like, I think that Port Adelaide and the Dockers are pretty similar kind of in terms of their, in the AFL, their gravitas, if you say, or stature. Look, like Drelo said, too many guys go out of the game for long periods of time. Brayshaw, Chera, Tucker just go missing. Look, I thought Hogan and Wilson were very rusty, in particular Wilson. Obviously, Conker had a couple of big Cat 10 mistakes in the back line. I thought the umpiring was pretty, again, even in the first quarter, mate, Young takes the mark and they're like, play on.
Yeah.
Where's the directive where they're like, hey, guys, last week the Dockers lost the game because we didn't pay marks, so let's just pay their marks. Like, Young actually took that mark. Oh, the commentator's like, oh, no, you went a bit. It's like, no, he took the mark.
Yeah.
Mate, can I say this as well?
Yeah.
Robbie Gray, is he our bunny? Like, I know Robbie Gray probably has played well in Adelaide.
Yeah.
But away from home, Robbie Gray has stunk it up versus the Dockers. I can't remember him playing good game versus the Dockers away from home. Very interesting there.
Yeah, look, interesting. Like, I mean, obviously that's a game that could have suited the old Nyhouse. The 10 possessions,
Yeah.
Dobbs a goal.
Yeah, and that was over the top when Conker really should have spoiled it or marked it or just done something. Like, he jumps up and has a fresh airy, and it just wasn't great.
6 contested marks at Charlie Dixon, though, mate. You just can't.
Yeah, that's what kills you, mate. It absolutely kills you. And, most of them are inside 50. And poor old Logan, Cox tried their hardest. I thought they did work pretty well. And it's where you miss Pearce and Hamling. And I know we got questions coming up about those guys. But it is, in the end, you can't lose your two key defenders and can't expect to be able to compete with Dixon.
Yep.
Because he's just too big. And I really fear for this week against Gold Coast with one of the Kings, Max King, Ben King, whichever King it is. And it's just, just the way it is. Into the Dockery, like we said, the rain with the game delay couldn't happen to anyone else. C. Natalie has also pointed out Hogan dropping a weight on his face. Is that one of the most Dockery things you've heard of, Oz?
Well, I've actually made a song called, what's it called here? Bench Press Shenanigans.
Bench press shenanigans.
Yeah.
I don't know how you drop a bell bar on your face. I don't know what's going on.
Here's a question I have for you, Duck.
Yeah.
First of all, when you're benching, generally speaking, the barbell is on some form of stand.
Yeah.
Attached to said bench.
Mm.
Firstly, why are you doing free weights on a bench that actually has a barbell? Let's start with that. Secondly, is it a case where the actual free weight wasn't tight, as in screwed, if it's a screw old school type? I don't even know. But did that fall off? People hovering around and undoing weights, so he drops it on his head. Like, how do you let someone knock a barbell off the actual bench?
As you can probably tell, I'm very much not going to gyms, but I have been before.
Yep.
I don't understand. Was it the actual bar of the bench press that fell on his face?
From what I understand, from what I've read, is that it was a barbell.
But so what's a barbell? Is that one of those?
No, that's the long bar that sits on the bench press. Yeah.
So I could understand maybe he's lifting it and he's just dropped it onto his face.
No, but you got someone spotting you though.
That's the thing. Who was the spotter? And could you not spot people now with the COVID stuff? Can you spot people,
good
mate?
Question.
That's probably the thing.
Yeah.
Can you spot?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Interesting. Hey, our boy Adam Chera, 8 tackles.
They started off well.
Started off well.
Just went out of the game a bit.
Yeah, like you said before, the consistency. Again, not to. I don't want to keep attacking Andy Brayshaw, but even when it was dry, mate, he really needs to look at his disposal.
Oh yeah.
And I know he's inside, but he's got to be able to hit a target at pick number 2.
Yeah, and
because I don't want him to turn into a glorified Matt DeBoer.
Well, that's what happens sometimes, mate. Anyway, I was on that note. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to have a little quick look. Oz has done some deep dives into Gold Coast versus Dockers recruitment over the last couple of years. And we'll go into the listeners' questions, which there are plenty of. Thank you very much, guys.
Now, this one's called Arousal Curve, Duck. Get around it. Come on. Come on, Duck. Have you ever had problems with computers, mate? Look.
Every day of my life, mate, is a problem with the computer.
Well, you know what, mate? I've got a solution for you, buddy. Just Make It Work will take care of all your IT problems and help you use technology to reach more people, make more money and waste less time. You can relax knowing you're in the hands of real Dockers supporters. Get on to jmiw.it. Call or email and mention the Purple Rain for 20% off your first project with Just Make It Work, Duck. I suggest you get around it.
Welcome back to episode 5, season 5 of the Purple Rain with Duck and Oz.
Purple Rain.
Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, rate and review on iTunes or Spotify. Make sure you follow us on social media at Purple Rain 95 on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And, guys, Oz is going to have a little bit of a deep dive here, guys, into Dockers versus Gold Coast, because obviously Gold Coast have shown a fair bit in the last 3 weeks, or the last 2 weeks, Oz. And it's a little bit interesting looking at the Dockers seem to be on the downtrend where the Gold Coast seem to be on the uptrend.
Yeah, mate, look, what I've done basically is have a look at our draft picks particularly, and I think it was about 3 episodes ago we talked about the X+3 scenario where you're going to see the exponential growth from your players, like from year 3, possibly through to year 5. But in the first couple of years, you need to make sure you get the games into them. And what I've noticed from Gold Coast is they've got a number of their players that they've just decided to pull the trigger on, rightly or wrongly, but in terms of keeping their games ticking over. And now we're starting to see probably the fruits of that labor. And obviously with their coach, who's got a different game style to what has been the case before, it now seems to be ticking over. Now, clearly, you can't compare all of the positioning in terms of the draft because Gold Coast have had access to the best 1, 2, 3 picks for a number of years now.
Yeah.
But what you can take into consideration is the volume of games that they're pumping into their youngsters, which is going to build up that experience. So I'll start by looking at the Freo, the Dockers, so 2019, 18, and 17. And our growth really is from 2017 when we actually, we play those guys. So I'm looking at 17, 18, 19. So Andy Brayshaw, pick 2's played 42 games. Adam Chera, 44 games. Hugh Dixon's just played the 1. Mitch Crowden's played 50. Sam Switkowski's played 20. Okay, now Bailey Banfield, rookie, listed 29. So in terms of that particular draft, those players we have given opportunities to. Then we go to 2018. Sam Sturt's only played the 2 games. Obviously, he's been injured. Valente injured, 0 games so far. Lockie Schultz has played 10 games. Bewley's played 10 games. Ethan Hughes, who was rookie listed. Technically, that doesn't count as a 24 because obviously he'd played before then. And Tobe Watson hasn't played either. And then you look at this year's draft picks. Hayden Young's played 2 games. Sarong yet to debut. Liam Henry coming off an injury. Frederick hasn't played. Pina hasn't played. Tom North still yet to play. And Hugh Dixon, still haven't played. If you go to the Gold Coast Suns, so they've already got 3 of their draft players either from rookie or national draft in 2019 who have played all 3 games thus far. Then you go to the 2018 draft where Jack Lukosius has played 24 games. Ben King's played 17 games, and then they've blooded rookie listed Michael Riccitelli and Bradley Shear. So they're already getting games into these guys. But this is where it's quite telling. So the 2017 where we've pumped games into 2 or 3 blokes, they've actually spread it across 4 guys: Will Powell, Charlie Ballard, Braden Crossley, and Nick Holman. So those guys in particular, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 players who from that original draft they've actually trusted to play and have said this is the direction of the club. Now, I think if you look at our list, we've got players that we really should be having a good look at, and this is the perfect opportunity, Duck, to do this. So if I look at, for example, who's on that list? I mean, for me, I think Sarong should have played. For me, I think he should have, and he probably unlucky to miss out initially. Henry's coming back. We understand he's still injured, but you've got your other guys like Frederick, Pina, North and Dixon, particularly North and Dixon. Like, what's the story there? Like, if they're not good enough to play by this point,
yeah, that's it.
So this goes back to your original point, and it's been raised in a number of different forums, so you're very popular. Progression stoppers. So my question to you is, whilst you can never underestimate the importance of effort, effort's only going to get you but so far. So we know we're going to get effort from certain players because that's their MO and that's what gets them in a team, which is great. But that effort is actually stopping us seeing potentially the growth in players that have talent in terms of, perhaps better skills. So my concern is if we haven't looked at certain players over, 2-3 seasons, why are they still on the list? And how long does a player have to hang around on a list before he gets a debut?
Yeah.
So, the question I have is in terms of growth and so forth. I think Gold Coast have gone all in, and yes, they've got better picks, and you would expect that. But I never would have thought I'd say that they're in a better position in terms of who they have and how they look. And it just looks like at the moment, I mean, it's only 2 games in they've won the 2 games. They lost the first game, but all of a sudden everything's clicking for them. And it's that young group that's carrying through. And we have to be very mindful. And this is the thing that concerns me the most, Duck, is Fife and Walters aren't going to be around forever. And they're in their prime. And whilst they're in their prime, I would like to see these sort of players come up and benefit from, being with your Fifes and being with your Walters and experiencing, top-end talent and playing, because clearly in our 3 games, they're the guys that carry the team.
Yeah.
I
think the thing that we're going to see this week, mate, and that we can really have a real hard look at, because we traded him for pick 6, but we're looking at essentially, where is it? I've got it here.
Yeah, it's a Lockie Weller trade you're going to talk about?
No. Ben King, who went at pick 6.
Yep.
Ben King versus Jesse Hogan, mate. Who would you rather have?
Mm.
And it was a big thing back then, and we were talking about these. Could we potentially get these King brothers, because we had picks around that, 5, 6, and could we snavel these 2 blokes up, these identical twins, play them at both ends of the ground, or have 2 of them down the forward line, mate, and your forward's set for the rest of your days, mate. it just and everyone's got a PhD in hindsight. We know that and all this and that and rah. But I think the problem is, Oz, is that we've gone in on a draft in the 2017 draft. And the 2017 draft, mate, in reflection, is actually pretty bad. It's not that good. It's not going to be a great draft, and we've got 2 of the top 10 picks. And realistically, if you look at the guys that played on the weekend, I mean, there's not really... Jaden Stevenson's probably the best player, and he couldn't get a game for Collingwood. You know, Stevenson, Rayner isn't really playing that well for Brizzy. He's all right. He's just a bit part player. He's nothing that special. You know, there's no real guys who stand out in that top 10 that really, you know, get you up and about when you think about it. And that was the draft that we kind of wanted to build everything around. You know, so it's a little bit of a tough one there. You know, but I mean, you look at Gold Coast picks, mate. They've had so many picks. Look, Rao, he seems like what I listened to with old mate from what's his name, Cal Toomey.
Oh yeah,
mate. I mean, he loves Victorians, and he only watches Victorians. It seems to be, but he seemed to think that he was the best prospect. You know, he's better than Sam Walsh, and they were talking about him being better than Sam Walsh last year. You know what I mean? And Sam Walsh is playing AFL. Noah Anderson looks how good. You know, again, Lukosius ranking. We haven't even seen ranking.
Yeah. And
people talk about how good he is. You know, Ben King. So that's, 1, 2, and then 2, 3, 6. And then we've got Will Power at number 19 in that 2017 draft. But then Ainsworth, Scrimshaw, who's not even on their list anymore, Will Brodie, Jack Bowers. You know, that's 4, 7, 9, and 10. You know, not to mention all the picks they had before. So, I mean, they've been crap for a number of years, but it goes back to probably an interesting thing that my older brother said to me. It's like, you can't be half good. You're either crap or you're good. You can't be half good. And unfortunately, the Dockers under Ross, because Ross is a good coach, and he is, and we do have 2 really great players in Fife and Walters, we've continuously been half good. Now, Oz, I'll put this to you, mate. Would you have traded Fife at the end of last year for pick 1 and 2?
Yeah. And the reason why, don't get me wrong, I love Nat Fife.
Yeah.
Like, I think Nat Fife is by far the best player. But you've got to look at the currency of when we're going to be potentially competitive down the track. And, you know, you get pick 1 and 2. You have a look at who pick 1 and 2 could have been.
Yeah. And they were a lock for 1 and 2, so they would have been 1 and 2.
Yeah. I mean, look at
Anderson. So it sucks, doesn't it, Oz? Because you can look at it and go, well, should we have pulled the trigger? Should you, like what Jerry Krause tried to do with the Bulls?
The Bulls, yeah.
Should you just, as soon as you know you can't win, just blow it up and just trade as much currency and try and rebuild through the draft as quickly as possible and have 3 years of pain and then get it back up and about.
Yeah.
You know, because that's, I mean, I feel like...
Just out of curiosity, would you have...
I think it's really hard to, especially coming off a Brownlow. It would have been sensational.
Yeah.
Would have been absolutely mental. And, like, we would have gone through a lot more pain.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just crazy.
It's hard, I think
if someone says, like, if you look at Port Adelaide, they got rid of Wingard for, I think it ended up being a couple of draft picks in Burton. Mate, if the same offer's there for maybe Sonny Walters, 2 or first rounder, second rounder, plus another good player coming back, you know, do you take it? You know, so you've got to really think, you know, I know you've got to have good players there still, but you think about the guys.
I think it's hard as well because we've grown up with these guys.
Yeah.
And the allegiance is there.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to just trade people like they're commodities.
Yeah,
but in the end, your goal is to win a flag. So if you can get a lot of currency out of it, you know, what do you do? But then if you think, Oz, as well, how close we've been in all 3 games, and if it wasn't for Fife and Walters, we would literally be the worst team.
Yep.
Like, by a mile.
Yeah. And he is, at the moment, for me, Fife is the best player in the competition.
Yeah.
Like,
he's killing them.
He's killing it. And I would be very surprised if he's not leading.
Yeah, I think Travis Boak would have got a fair few. He probably would have got the 3 on the weekend, and Fife probably would have got 2. You know, and Sonny Walters is probably doing the same amount of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but the problem is we need 2 more of those guys.
Yeah.
So do you trade them to get 2 potential so you can get, you know, because you're going to get 2 first-round picks to get 4 of them anyway. Yeah. And then you build them up and then you go from there.
And the problem with our history is that we don't necessarily those picks aren't necessarily turning out to be
Exactly. You know, a top 10 potential.
Yeah,
You
see,
know,
that's where I go no in that case.
Yeah, once you got them, don't you? And it's just crazy. I know it seems people are probably spitting at their iPhones being like, you guys are talking a load of smack, but I guess in the end, it's like, what do you do? What's the end goal? You might as well be real bad, get a compensation, get a first round, because we might get the first round pick for this year.
Well, we have don't we have points deduction? So we're actually going to be like sliding down to pick whatever it is.
Yeah, just wouldn't surprise me. Oh yeah,
we're in points deficit.
We're in points deficit, but can't you take that from the second pick? Do you have to take that from the first pick?
I think it actually would go from the first pick, wouldn't it?
I don't know, mate. I don't know what it'd be. Yeah. Who knows with the points? But you know what I mean, Oz? It's like you could potentially
be very Dockery though in COVID when we haven't actually seen an under-18s carnival. All of a sudden, we got the first pick.
Oh yeah, and we're like, we'll pick this guy. He played rugby. It's like what? Yeah, he's a good cricket player.
Sorry, mate. That's just a side note. I just wanted to bring it up because the question came up on the weekend. Where is our development? How does it compare with Gold Coast? Again, you can't compare the value of the pick.
Yeah.
You can just compare to what they're doing with those picks.
And I guess in the end, Oz, what you've got to say is, look, where are these guys that are Matera, Collier, even to an extent Schultz, because I think that's as good as what he gets, is what we've got now. Like guys like that, how are they going and how are they progressing guys coming through? Whether it be a Valente or not a Sturt, a Sarong, and guys that can roll into the mids, play up forward, roll up into the mids. Give us a contest, but roll up into the mids. I feel like those three small forwards, there's no need for all three of them. It'd be better to have someone who can roll into the mids that will give us a little bit more grunt around the contest.
Yep.
Win it at the coalface.
The young lad that we saw play Carlton in Mandurah, the big tall guy, and I think it was his grandma sitting in front of us.
Oh, Dixon.
Yeah.
No, it was his host mum.
Host mum, sorry. Are we going to see any sort of action there?
I don't think he's like everyone's banging. Like, not when I say everyone, my mates in my group chat love huge dicks, right? And I just think he was average against Port Adelaide in his one game. He's not very fit.
He's had one game.
He hasn't really killed it. But big players take a while unless they're instantly talented.
Yeah, right.
Like the King brothers.
Yeah.
And it's gonna take time.
They're looking
for those
very
guys to
good.
progress.
Those guys are looking very good.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Imagine them at both ends of the ground, mate. And then all you've got to do is just build a midfield. That's all you got to do. Anyway, mate. Let's get into the questions, Oz. Why not press that button?
Gonna go with this one.
Fantastic. Oz, just on that with the Weller trade, mate, Shawnee Warren and Hermit Crab have also asked the same question. Essentially, who won the trade? Weller and pick 41, who became Bollard, or Matera and pick 2, who became Brayshaw? Who do you think's won that trade? I know Weller's played one good game this week.
Yeah, look.
So people are like banging on about how good Weller is.
Prior to that, average.
Yeah.
Prior to that, average. So I would say us. Again, what concerns me about AB is just his disposal efficiency at pick 2. I want to see a little bit more there, but you can't deny his grunt, can't deny his intensity, leadership is great, but you want to see a little bit more class there.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I'm going to say us. Next question for you, Duck.
No, you're on this side.
No, I'm on this side. Here we go.
I'm on that side.
Jack Carrington-Jones, about time we saw this. 22 versus 22. Kepler Bradley versus Clive Waterhouse. 1, who wins the game? And 2, bought more beers as a 14-year-old, as I assume they have looked 35 since they graduated kindergarten. P.S. David Mundy's new look is what you get when you order 2018 Nat 5 off Wish.
I did like that last bit. I was like, what? And then I remember the old Wish, the old dodgy stuff. Look, Kepler's versus Clive's. I'm going to have to go Kepler's because of the diversity. I can't see Clive playing that well in the mids and back line. It would be a very chaotic match.
You wash your dirty mouth out with
Who do you reckon had more beers but at the age of 14? I feel like Kepler Wouldn't have minded to be.
Mate, the way that we saw
Clive was
double
down at
fisting,
him,
mate. He was double
Actually,
fisting.
no, it has to be Clive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Has to be Clive.
And coincidentally, I think Clive wins it.
Clive wins it.
Yep.
This is from Kelbo and David D'Souza. Same kind of question here. What's happening with Connor Blakely? Where's he at? Why is he not playing? We're getting dominated in the midfield.
Yeah, had a bit of a loss there, Duck. I mean, I know he had that. We keep going back to it, but it was only one game, and we have other players that have had multiple games where they've stunk it up. Yet still playing. Connor has one bad game, and all of a sudden he's out. Turn it up. I'd like to see him back in there. What we know he's good at is getting the contested ball. I know in recent times he's been playing off halfback, but he is a contested ball beast. I'd like to see him go back in the middle, mate.
Back in the mids, mate.
Yeah.
I reckon he'd do a bit better job than Darcy Tucker, mate, at the moment. And even defensively as well, because we need someone to defend while Fife and Walters kind of steam. I honestly think, guys, we can't have Fife and Walters in the same centre downs.
Yeah.
They're both way too attacking.
Correct.
It has to be one or the other.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's got to be like maybe 60-40. Like Fife's in there for 60% of the time and up forward for the rest, and Walters is 60% down forward and 40% in the guts.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like that's a better balance.
I like it.
Yep.
Leonie Turner. Shout out, Leonie. How you going? Is it just me, or does everyone else find listening to Jared Healy commentary make them feel like throwing a brick through the TV and then slitting their wrists? Also, if I place a multi-bet and one of the games is cancelled, why don't I get my money back? Hang on, that's egregious. Hang on, we'll go back to that one. Keep up the good work, guys. Better times are coming.
Now, Leonie, what happens in your multi-bet, what should have happened, is that leg of the bet should have just been cancelled and voided. So if you lost another leg, that means you lost it.
Yeah.
Sorry. And now I assume, Leonie, one of your other legs was the Dockers to win, and you thought it'd cancel the whole bet. It just cancels that leg.
Gotcha.
So that leg just gets voided.
Because clearly
Jared Healy, I believe, said that Tommy Sheridan was not delivering the ball into the forward line very well.
Yeah.
When it was Aish, he was like, "Oh, Sheridan, just a really bad kick there. Like, why didn't?" And I was like, "Sheridan,
Yeah.
he's back."
He's gone the 180. He used to be a Dockers fan, Jared Healy.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden he started hating on us.
yeah. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. He loves the Eagles, though, mate. Loves him some.
Mate, he
West
just
Coast
likes
Eagles.
watching the Eagles play, I think, because he always does the WA game.
Yeah, he does.
And I think he's not in WA when he does it. Don't think so.
Oh.
Okay, John Riley and Jeremy White have asked pretty similar questions in terms of, at what point did the developments do you accept that Brayshaw and Chera are not the answer to your midfield and start blooding Sarong and Valente? And our young midfielders, Tucker, Brayshaw, Chera, are inconsistent the negative things that take from this second quarter. However, the positive things first and last quarter is Brayshaw is one of our best runners yet. He's reduced minutes in the last 3 weeks. What injury is he carrying?
I thought he got a cork. I heard that he picked up a cork. Well, that was what they were running out, so hence the reason why he may have tailed off. We've already talked about that before. I would like to see Sarong and Valente come in. I'd like to really see what those guys can produce. The problem being, Duck, as you're well aware, is that there is a tipping point when you bring in too many at the same time. So, case in point, 2 at a time.
Yeah.
I was super excited with what we saw. Probably a smart thing not to play Hill in the end, given the heavy conditions. He probably would have busted open another quad or something like that, potentially in the horrible conditions. But I would expect Stephen Hill to come back this week. I would expect us to take a look at the Bureau of Meteorology before we make a
Bomb.com.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I want to see those 2 guys in. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Tobe Watson comes in.
Okay. All right.
No, just the
Something
way
different?
when we saw him play, I think it was the West Coast here. I thought he did quite well.
I don't understand, mate. And I know a lot of our listeners would listen to the game with Duff and Quarters or whatever it's called. But Duff keeps going on about Sarong's second game. He didn't play that well against the Eagles. Go back, guys, and watch the last quarter. Sarong is in every goal we kick. He's in the guts and he's dominating against big bodies. And it's not possessions, it's hands in. It's stopping the run. It's little taps out. It's holding the ball. Like, it's all the little things that help you win games and probably would have done well on the weekend.
Yep.
You know, look, I feel like if we had Sarong in there on the weekend, it would have been a really positive step. And, you know, Hill goes out. I know Wilson's the ready replacement. Wilson looks super rusty. Sarong would have been in, get him in the guts, push Chera back to the half back, and let him play that running half back, which he's better at than playing in the midfield, and you go from there, you know?
Yeah. I do like the idea of, obviously, Wilson coming back because of his leadership within that group, I think is good. But I think there's still a couple more changes to come, Duck.
Yeah.
Why not?
There definitely is.
Is it
Now,
me?
is it? Yeah, yes. No.
Yes.
Yes.
Aaron Stock. For me, the blueprint to beat Freo was on display against Port. Our backline struggled against the height and size of Port's forward line. Our mids dropped back to assist. This left a lack of numbers in the midfield, causing constant turnovers. Port's return entries eventually busting the damn walls. You didn't get my GIF, by the way. I thought it was quite funny. I sent you a GIF of stuff blowing up and then a runny turd. Anyway, question 1. Without Hamling and Pearce, how do we stop this? Question 2. Does Freo need a giant again? I feel it's our thing, a Dockery giant like Spider Burton and Sandilands.
Oh, I think actually, you know, the interesting thing is that Sean Darcy in this fixture last year at home really had a really breakout game where he dominated Ryder and Lysette in the last quarter in particular.
Hands down.
But do we need a big lumbering ruckman? I don't think that's the way of the future. His first question was Pearce and Hamling. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any team's going to go that well with their centre half back and full back out. You know, like look, McGovern, Barras, take those guys out of the Eagles. Take, you know, Andrews and who's the other guy? McStay? I don't know who the other. I don't know who the centre half back is. I don't know any of that. But I mean, take the centre half back and full back out of any team, and you're really going to struggle, especially against the key forwards. And I think Cox and I will say I thought Cox and Logue weren't too bad. Logue got worked over a number of times where he just wasn't quite switched on enough. And it was a little bit disappointing and it was a little bit of a regression. But, you know, I've got a lot of hopes for those guys. And I thought especially Cox came off in the first quarter with a little slight groiny,
I saw that.
quad kind
Given
of.
a good old stretch.
And he went back on and I thought he played all right. You know, like you're not going to be able to do that well if the ball is just pumped into the... Like you think about that second quarter, to only concede 5 goals when we literally didn't get it into our half of the ground until the last minute of the quarter. Like when you think about that, Oz, it's actually a really good defensive effort. Like it is quite good. For the amount, I think they had 20 inside 50s to nothing or something at one stage.
Yeah, we were flattered a little bit with their kicking, but still, I agree with what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like it could have been way worse.
Would you say that Cox... I think Cox is a lot better in the defensive half than he is forward because I just think he reads the flight a lot better.
Yeah,
and he can attack it differently.
I think he would be a solid third forward, but mate, I think he wouldn't be the worst. You know, he wouldn't be the worst
compared to what we have.
Yeah, well, who's our third forward? Like, you know, you play Lob. See, I don't think Lob did that bad in I think Lysette manhandled him a couple of times, but it was more of like where was the other positioning, you know, and where were the defenders and why did they have a loose at the contest, you know? Anyway, Sean Pillar, hey guys, I'm no footy brainer, so I was wondering if you guys have seen any massive changes in our game plan. If so, what do you like, dislike?
Yeah, the way definitely how we flick the ball around. I think we're definitely taking on shorter kicks, which we weren't prepared to do necessarily under Ross. I'm not sure if that was a directive from Ross or whether they were just too afraid to make mistakes. Who knows? But I certainly think the game plan clearly is more Collingwood-esque in hitting up shorter targets and advancing the ball probably a little bit more methodically than what we have done in the past, and then being prepared to take on probably a more risky kick than what, you know, through the coriander than what perhaps we would have done in the past. Didn't come off. Like the point that you made about Young, I was really chuffed to see him have a crack at that. You know, that's what we need.
All right.
Thoughts?
No, mate, I like your ideas on it. It's good.
Okay, next one.
You pretty much got what I would have said.
Fred Boney. Also, which pubs are Dockers fans finding to show the best? Show the game the best in Freo? Chasing the full experience, but left wanting every time.
What are the pubs you've been to, Oz? I went to. Obviously I didn't watch the game this week at a pub, but I went to Village Bar. That was all right. Pretty low crowd and nice pints. They got Stone and Wood, and they got a good variety of different beers. The Royal surprisingly, mate, they've got these little booths that have TVs in them. So you can't not see a TV, which I was pretty excited about. But I went there just randomly on a Sunday afternoon and I think the Sydney Essendon game was on. Fair to say my missus wasn't too impressed that there was footy on. I was like, I don't think there's any screen to the Royals. I didn't think there was because I'd only ever sat outside.
Yeah.
But Fenway was really good. They do good handles as well. But in terms of Dockers fans, look, the big thing is that there aren't a large amount of us out there. We're all really spread out.
Yes.
So, we're not like Eagles flogs that join together. But I'd say head down to anywhere in Freo.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure if we're going to do, because we haven't been in contact with the guys from the Newport yet. I think we've been given the old see you later. But I thought nice for the Dockers fans to get around. I thought that was pretty good.
Sail and Anchor, isn't that owned by Pav?
The Sail and Anchor is, yes. I was talking about the Newport. But yep.
Yeah.
Balmoral's also really good. Big park for those of you who are, up this way.
Yeah.
Always
well,
good
guys, I'll probably be in like Fenway. I'll be around Subi and Oz will be around Vic Park. So if you see us, come say good day. You know what we look like. Look at it on social media. Don't be afraid. I know we're just two normal dudes. So we might be a bit afraid.
We'll be the ones crying.
Oh, this one's for you. Hi, guys. Thanks for the show and love listening to them. The game really highlighted how much we're missing our two key defenders that we spoke about. Thoughts on Matera and Collier playing next week? Do you think it's time to give Sarong and Meek a go?
Sarong, yes. Meek, interesting. Again, let's check the Bureau of Meteorology on that one, Duck. Last thing we want to do is have a bigger sort of ruckman in conditions that don't necessarily suit said talls. I mean, you wouldn't have thought that those conditions would have suited the talls, but man, they were just taking clunks. Unbelievable. One of those games that just turned out to be super Dockery. He's another guy that we might have to take a look at. But by the same token, I know people were pouring it on Lob, but I actually thought he handled himself well. Like considering, Lycett's a pretty good ruckman.
Yeah. Just quickly, Oz. Josh Loveridge has also asked about Meek. Haven't followed his progress too much, but in front of goal, should we play him against the Suns? Or the Crows to back up Lob?
The problem with the Suns, they got a pretty tall outfit.
It's Saturday night, isn't it, as well? So it might be a bit slippy.
Yeah.
I think it's Saturday night, mate. Who knows when
Interesting. What's Darcy's go anyway? Because you can't...
They said he was a test.
Yeah, well, if Darcy's a test...
Saturday night, 5:40. Metricone.
Yeah, I'm sure the AFL will push that
It'll be
back
slippy,
to...
mate.
They'll push it back to 10:30.
I wouldn't play another ruckman. I think it's going to be dewy. Heavy dew.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't play another ruckman there.
Yeah, like
right.
Cool. I agree. Darren Stralo, should we go hard to get Sava Radigalia on the team after he put his extreme Dockery credentials forward last weekend?
If you didn't see it, guys, essentially Radigalia has the ball's going through for a goal.
Yes.
And he spoiled the ball forward in his own so it didn't go through whatsoever, and Geelong lost. And it was a very, very interesting.
Interesting.
Don't know why. No one was around him. It seemed to be that, the footage I saw, there was not anyone contesting that ball, and he's just like bang. Thank you. It was probably the most Dockery thing that happened this weekend.
Apart from pushing the game 2 hours back.
Oh, pushing the game 2 hours back was very Dockery. Yeah. Sorry.
By the way, shout out Gil. Goes through his presser, looking the goods, talking about and the this game's going to be pushed back by 2 hours. Names the two teams, and the Dockers game. The Dockers game will be it will be later, and we'll let you know. That's what he said.
Yeah.
God.
All right, mate. You're up.
No, I just asked that one.
This is from Ferg Inglis. He says, what do you make of Lockie Schultz's cumulative performance for the Dockers at this point? Their odd flashes of brilliance enough to persist with him in our 22 or even on the list. Who's he keeping out of the team?
Yeah, a question. Shout out, Juddy. A question I had for him was I was wondering why we had three small forwards for the one position, really, which for me had two small forwards on the bench when we could have had an extra small running through the middle. That was my question. Look, you know what you're going to get out of Schultz. You're going to get effort. You're going to get tackles. I love his get up and go, but again, it's who's actually pushing for that position? Then it comes down to, can you fit Matera, Switkowski,
Collier,
Schultz,
Henry.
Someone's gonna.
Yeah, I feel like Henry is Matera in the wings.
Yeah.
I feel like Schultz is a poor man's Switkowski. I think Switkowski's got a little bit more about him. He's a little bit more talented, and I think Collier could be any number of players that roll up into the midfield. Like a Sarong or a Valente. I feel like those guys could play a pretty similar role, small, and even Banfield could play Collier's role a little bit there. I just think that there's only room for 3 max, but one of them has to be able to roll up into the midfield a bit more.
Yes.
And that alleviates a bit more off Sonny Walters as well.
Yeah, good point.
Who we forget about is probably the best small forward in the game.
And
We're crying out for
We're
forward.
crying out for forward.
We need million Sonnies
Can you
and
just
a million Fifeys.
stud farm that
Yeah.
involves Fife and Walters?
Yep.
Like, I don't know, the cryogenic freezing up process, I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows?
Can we just have multiple, clone?
Now, this is going to be very, very risky. But should we be Fife and Walters?
Yeah.
Should we be getting their seed?
Yes.
Maybe putting it into some of the AFLW ladies who maybe don't have a male partner.
Oh, don't go there.
Is that controversial, Oz? Is that breeding program too controversial for the Dockers?
Sounds like something that comes out of China. Yao Ming.
Mate, all I'm saying is Yao Ming, mate, Chinese, they do well in the Olympic Games, mate. They win golds.
Well, the vials.
Sorry. And what was the original question, mate? Lockie Schultz. Is he in your best 22 and is he on
no.
your list? Not on your best 22?
No.
Position on the list still, do you think?
At the moment, he would be on the list, yeah.
Lockie Schultz is the typical guy, I think, the Dockers player that would not get a game anywhere else. Honestly, I just feel like I thought he played quite well and he tried his hardest, but he doesn't kick goals. He's like a poor man's Paul Piopolo who doesn't kick goals. And it's like, well, cool, we've got this forward. This guy plays on forward line, doesn't kick goals. Couldn't kick goal from 45 metres out, mate, when we had a chance to get within a sniff and he couldn't make the distance. So it's that kind of stuff that really gets my goat.
Yeah. It's me.
Yep.
Nathan Kelly, considering the circumstances, what are your thoughts on pass-fail marks for coach, team, players for the season?
Look, I'm not really worried about this season. I think it's very much a write-off. I think that if we end up with a top 3 or 4 pick, I think that will be good. I would like to see us continually progress. I want to see us get games into the young guys. I think that the progression of the plan, and I don't want to sound like I'm a bloody big old ledge, but I did say to most people that there would be a regression under J-Lo for a start, and then we would get better. That if you look at the list profile, if you look at the guys we need to come into the game, if you look at our injuries as well at the start of the year, then there was always going to be that regression, And once we get Hamling, Pierce back, once we get some games into those guys, plus Sarong comes in, Valente, maybe even Henry by the end of the year, maybe we'll see some progression by the end of the year. The problem is, Oz, is that, we've got Fife and Walters in their prime of their careers.
Yeah.
And we're not going to win many games with them.
That's the problem. We're torn between doing the right thing by those guys and obviously trying to win football games.
Yeah.
But then juggling, bringing on these younger guys.
I think that's when we look back, mate, we'll say, well, this period of time from 2015 to 2020, we should have just draft. We shouldn't have brought in, we shouldn't have been trying to get guys back. We should have just been drafting, trusting our draft process, go to the draft every time, because the only time we've had success and prolonged success is when we've gone to the draft. 2013, you look at that team.
Oh, boy.
There's only a couple of guys who were brought in from other clubs. They were all drafted players. And the guys that came in, McPhee, we drafted him and then he came back. Okay, no, McPhee wasn't in the team, sorry, for the 2013. He'd
originally was, but then...
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like Kepler Bradley, who was a
didn't
bit
play
of
2013.
He didn't play in... Man, who are the guys? But there's not that many, sorry.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
I know what you mean.
Is that they were mainly guys who were drafted into the club. And you know what? If we went down that line, you look at guys like, and you've got it... You had on your list, mate, you had some of the draft picks that we gave up, but it doesn't really say. Like Cam Mack pick 7, Harley Bannell, first round pick, Brad Hill pick 23, Hamling even, you get those winners like Hamling and that, but then, Brandon Matera, third round pick, Nathan Wilson, okay, guys like that, Hogan, Lob, like if you just went to the well and we just went to our drafting, how good would we have been? And I think as well, getting rid of Phil Smart was a mistake. I was never a massive. I always got brainwashed that Phil Smart wasn't a good list manager because of what happened at the start of the Dockers, where they didn't pick McLeod and they ignored the draft. But that seemed to be driven from Neesham, not from Phil Smart. When Phil Smart got the reins, mate, he'd made great decision after great decision. Good pick and good WA picks as well. J-Lo, Hazelby, poor old Risty Palmer, but unlucky.
Yeah.
Morabito looked like a gun. Fife, he picks him. And all our rookie listed guys that we pick up, MJ, all the guys who are our best players, Sanderlands, that ended up, it's...
Grover.
Yeah. So I think realistically, getting back to the pass-fail mark, there is no real pass-fail mark on this year. It's playing some young guys, and I think it's really going back to the well, and we have to go back to the well a number of times. We're going to have to potentially, because it is, all right, our best 22, maybe we've got a chance to compete, but I don't think we're there. I don't think we're in premiership contention, even with our best 22 running around. We're probably 2 midfielders shy, 2 really quality midfielders shy, and another quality forward shy.
I think it's interesting you say that, Duck. I said when the hub first came up, I said if we win one game out of the hub, I think we're doing well. I think it might shape up to be that way, depending on how Adelaide bounce back when we play them in 2 weeks. I think Gold Coast is going to be a tough game this week.
Yeah.
Based on how they're playing compared to how we've played in bits and spurts. But I do have a fail, and my fail is if we don't try and blood some of these young players that should be getting a gig and they're just being held back.
Yeah, I mean, us as well. But the thing we've got to think about, I just spoke about at the top of the show, the quarters. We win. We could be 3-0. There's no reason, torrential downpour, bit of a bummer.
Yep.
Okay, Charlie Cameron goes loose for a little bit, like a 5-minute lapse in concentration.
Yep.
And then the Essendon game, we just did not start at all well.
But again, we ask why that is. It's not the same guys that we talk about that are causing the issue in terms of Fife, Walters, Lob. These are the guys you can rely on. Put your house on them. Like, they're going to play good football. But it's the other guys that are towards the bottom of the list that,
That's it, mate.
Yeah.
And on that, I have got a question about the bottom 5.
Yeah, go.
After crediting, this is from Connor Doyle, after being credited as a team who too heavily relies on Fife and Walters, is our bottom 5 players in the 22 needed to be moved out, and the likes of Sarong, North, Valente, Watson and Frederic, who I've heard is a great young talent but I haven't seen, come in and play out of passion and starvation to be locks in the 22?
Yeah, look, shout out, Connor. How you going? Hopefully you're still growing that beard of yours, mate. That was very impressive. Look, I'm at the point of saying probably yes, because I think 0-3 now gives us a little bit more room to actually look at that. But I don't think, and to be fair to J-Lo, I don't think he's that sort of guy that's just going to give up on the season. Like, he's too competitive, obviously, from all reports. Like, his system is working. It's just that we're not necessarily sticking to said system for 4 quarters. So I can completely understand why you want to roll out the perceived best 22, but I want to see those guys come through.
I can't see much of a difference between our 11th player, even I'd go as far as that, maybe, and our 30th player.
Yeah.
I think, and that's our problem.
Yeah,
is that we've got a big tail of guys who
the top end is elite.
Yeah, and then after that, it drops off fairly hard. Now, Connor's also said, mate, as well as that, during trade time, do we aim to get someone like Shane Edwards, who's in his 30s, out of contract at the end of the year, but much celebrated success the last couple of years of Richmond? Thanks, fellas, for the pod. Hope you're going well, Oz.
Yeah. Shut up, mate. How you going?
We just spoke about
got to go young.
Yeah.
Got to go young. Just have
But you look at someone like Lockie Aish, if they're cheap, if there's that money ball situation where you can bring in an experienced player who will be
he's been bloody good.
Yeah. James Aish, not
James
Lockie
Aish, yeah.
Who's
I know
Lockie
you're
Aish?
talking about, mate.
Who's Lockie Osh?
Yeah, you're thinking about Lockie, what's his name?
Schultz.
Lockie
All right, mate,
Weller.
you're up.
Go. Yes, it is Sharon H. Goals conceded in opposition forward line stoppages. Please explain.
Oh, mate. It
God.
Just, the goals that were conceded really got my goat, mate. That's all I'll say. And it's just pretty pathetic.
It's the same?
And it's lack of, it's just, it actually comes down to a little bit of training as well and positioning. And the Dockers were renowned for not conceding goals at stoppages. So, look, I think as well, the big bodies around the contest, you're looking at Boat, Wines, Gray, Motlop, who's their other midfielders? Burn Jones, Rosie. You know, all these guys are pretty big. Ebert, they're all pretty big-bodied mids, so it's pretty hard to match up on every single one of them. Port Adelaide should be good, man. Yeah. They were good in 2013, and then they fell off a cliff.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, no, 2015 they beat us.
2014.
2014 they were good.
The game where I claimed Tabs was on fire and you ended up with like 5 possessions or something.
Yeah, they're a great game. But, you know, after that they fell off a cliff, and they were just petering there. But they did the thing where they were bold and played their young players, and they've made the most out of it, mate. They really have, and they're reaping the rewards now.
Yep.
So they went down a bit, then they popped back up, you know. This one's for you, mate, from Jake Bazzuto. I see a lot of fans who are wanting to bring in the likes of Blakely, Sarong, Hill, Valente for Schultz, Matera, Collier. Personally, I don't think it'd be good for team balance, as well as leave us with no small forwards. Thoughts? And also, where's Switter?
Yeah, I thought Switter's injured. Is that right?
I don't know if he's on the injury list, is he?
Is he progressing?
Maybe he's just because he was injured at the start of the year, so maybe they're just getting K's in his legs.
TBA?
Switter is TBA back.
Yep.
TBA.
Well, we all know what TBA means.
Dead.
We don't really know what's going on. Look, we talked about it. Balance is important. There's that tipping point that we've referred to. It's hard because you really want to see these guys, but it depends on who you take out. That's the thing. It depends on who you take out. And if you've got guys that aren't necessarily contributing over the 4 quarters and you're replacing them with guys that can, you know, that might not have the same volume of output over the 1 quarter, but over 4 quarters they're more consistent. You want that.
Yeah.
That's my take on it, mate. All
yeah,
right.
That's a good point.
Cameron James, if supporting the Dockers is like having a heroin addiction, then this podcast is the weekly rehab meeting.
Oh, thank you. I think we remember when we were when we very first started, we were talking about being beyond purple.
Yes.
Like we're the clinic that people go to, ring up, helpline, you know, when they're feeling down in the dumps about Dockers, mate.
Yeah.
We're beyond purple. But
Yeah.
look, I think I did catch up with Doc. Shout out to you, mate. I know you'd be listening. On the weekend, we had a couple of tins and we had a good time. But he was very much a fan of my analogy of supporting Dockers is like being a heroin addict. It is, because you ride the highs, you ride the lows, you go through the good times. You sometimes wonder what you're doing with your life.
The withdrawals.
You know, the withdrawals. You start stealing shit and scratching your arms and stuff like that. And, you know, anyone who's watched Train Spotting. Anyway, next one is from Lindsay Fragira. Thoughts on Conker's performance, Oz? I know he's a leader for the young backs, but boy, oh boy, was he bad on the weekend. If Hill is available this week, does he make a decent replacement?
Yeah, look, I think it's fair to say that there are games where you just have a conglomerate of errors.
He just had a stinker.
He had a stink. And look, he's not normally like that. I think he had 3 holding the balls. It was like the return of the humper himself, Nicky Subban.
Had Subban been in the hub just giving some tips to the boys,
Maybe.
they brought him back.
Maybe.
I feel like Subban's probably the same age as Conker.
Probably. I'd have to check that.
All right, mate.
Yeah, mate. D. Waters, why is nobody talking about lob to fullback?
I didn't mind that call, but I tell you what, mate, the return of, and shout out to you, Stixie, for sending me a message, the return of the duck theory that Lob cannot take a mark below his eyes was very much in play on the weekend. He dropped one in the goal square when the defender, they said, oh, he did so well. The defender did nothing and he dropped a mark and he goes back and kicks that. We're actually down by, I think it would have been 20 points, maybe 3 goals with 10 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. You know, and we got a bit of momentum. So, look... Pardon me, Lob dropping that mark, it just did my head in, Oz.
Yeah, not ideal.
Fred Bonney, this is his first question. So I really liked how Hogues freed up the crab in the 1st quarter. I'm sure over the course of the year we'll see an improvement in the team. I like J-Lo called out our next crop of kids to develop in his Q&A after the match. Never as good, Never as good as it seems, never as bad as it seems.
Yeah.
Our line.
Yeah. Yeah, true that.
I can't get around J-Lo's press conferences as much as Ross's.
Well, it's hard.
Ross, I would watch like as soon as it was up. J-Lo's, I'm like, next day, I'm like, I've got a spare 5 minutes. I'll watch J-Lo.
And look, shout out to Luke. We haven't seen you in a while, mate. Hope all is well. But one of the most exciting things for me was actually sitting in a Ross Lyon press conference, like sitting in the Ross Lyon press conference.
Yeah.
But almost melting to the point where he was going to ask a question like, well, I don't really have a question here, Ross. I just want to listen.
I loved how every now and again he'd just look at us and we'd be like, what is going on? Why are you looking at us? See how intimidating he is, mate. All right, you're up. I think you have
Last
got
one,
left?
mate. Yeah,
I
Anthony,
got one left.
Yep, Anthony Margaretic. Not a question, but I think we just need to treat this year as a glorified preseason for 2021. Even before the virus hit, 2020 was always going to be about JL building the foundations for the future. Just need to persist with the kids and changing game plan, Duck.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that, mate.
I'm 100 in on JL, by the way. I'm 100% in. You can see it's happening.
Bev Wilson, this is the last question. What do you think of Young's 2 games so far? Plenty to like. Looked like he got caught. He had caught up to the speed of the game, and interested on our opinions.
Firstly, I will say that you can already tell that his kick is elite. I already love the fact that he backs his kicks in and he's willing to go coriander. And when we start lifting and taking those marks, and we're going to see the fruits of that. Yeah, he's going to make some mistakes, but you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't give up on a contest. Puts his head over the footy. He pretty much does everything you expect him to do, and he's just...
He's a solid defender.
Yeah, he's 2
quick,
games in.
Good skills. Mate, he's going to be a good player.
Yeah.
He'll be a good player for the Dockers for a long time to come, I feel. You just see it in some people.
Yep.
And I know I've been quick to pull the trigger on our young players and be critical of them, but... He looks like a good player to me. He does look like a good player to me. A feature
for me that I think we need to be mindful of is when you draft players from Victoria, you want to try and keep them happy.
Keep them going.
If you somehow develop the relationship between Sarong and Young playing together, developing those games like Ches and Brayshaw, mate, that, it makes it easier.
Interesting. All right, I was on that note. Thanks for listening, guys. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review on what's it called? iTunes. That's classic.
That thing.
And follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Purple Rain 95. Also, lastly, guys, if you don't listen to it already, get around the Purple Patch. We're every Thursday. We'll be coming late night Thursday night because Oz has got some job stuff to do this week. So we'll be late. So just listen to us Friday morning. A little bit of a preview. And, guys, hopefully we'll see you down the pub somewhere.
Oh, good times.
Having a froth. If you do, buy us a beer. Why not? Bloody hell, we give you all this free content every week to listen to. See ya.
Oh, mate. This one's called Bench Press Shenanigans.